Chris Colbert stopped again. Let's talk about it.
Push the weight, enough flex. The livest one in the section. Fit the runner, boy, you nigga, no question. You would run a motherfucker high stepping. Hey, you never had a big enough weapon. Motherfucker never learned your lesson. I'm a 88 pack nigga, boo. I'm a 88 pack nigga, boo. I mean, day walker, drink blood, trains out, full moon, motherfucker change like a hoe, nigga. I'm just a nigga from the hood trying to stack a little cheddar for the money.
Drew Titan Bronx on deck. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Well, he fought on a Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, on a pro box card. And he lost. He lost to a gentleman by the name of Salcido. Honestly, never heard of this guy. I found out tonight that he's trained by Benavidez, David and Jose's dad. Was that him in the corner that I saw? Okay, I really wasn't paying too much attention to that, but I said, okay, let's see what he got. And Salcido came out and imposed his will. Fight was stopped, I think, round 8. When I heard the corner, he said, man, you got to show me something or I'm going to stop this thing. I don't know if he believed him or not, but his corner kept his word. Colbert came out. He didn't look as lively. He didn't look as slick. And I think the cat's out the bag. All you got to do is walk this kid down and you'll land something. And Salcido, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, he did just that. Mr. Benavidez says, you know, I know what kind of kid that Colbert is, but we're going to get the win. And he went in there and did just that. Colbert, to me, at this ripe young age, I don't know if it has anything to do with his training. I'm not going to put it on his training. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it on, I think his shine has ran its course. He didn't look too motivated. This was not the Chris Colbert that I was used to seeing. Lively, confident. He went from fighting on Showtime. You know, Showtime's no longer airing boxing, but he went from fighting in arenas full of thousands of people to a pro box forum. And it's not as many people, but shout out to Pro Box. I watched it on YouTube. And they're doing good things. They're doing good things. It was a solid card. What's this kid's name? Who's a co-main event? Senbatat. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name, but this was the kid that injured Ryan Garcia before he fought Tank. Remember him? Ryan, are you okay? He was in a co-main event and he won. But there was a whole bunch of Pro Box. Shout out to them. They're putting together some solid competition. But they put Colbert as their main event. And people are saying that this was an upset. They were saying that this was an upset. I don't see that. You see, with Chris Colbert, the cat's out the bag with him. Let me explain. And for those of you that follow me, you know what my problem is with this kid. I'm just going to go ahead and, for those of you finding me for the first time, salute to you. I'm just going to explain my stance on Chris Colbert and why I don't feel any kind of way about him. A few years ago, he was supposed to show up to another content creator show. The content creator is based out of California. And when he was airing his live streams at night, it was midnight. And I'm here in New York City. And I was waiting because he said, I'm going to have Chris Colbert on the show. Chris Colbert is from my city. And I'm trying to support the kid. And I said, okay, you know, he's flashy. He's young. You know, he got these funny colors in his hair, but it's whatever. And I'm watching the show. It's midnight 30, 1 a.m. And then people in the chat were like, hey, man, what happened to Chris Colbert? And Fred, you know, Barbershop Conversations, that was his show. And he said, I don't know. And I'm just listening. I said, wow, you know. He said, listen, man, I do these shows for the fighters, man. You know, this is a nice place for them to promote themselves. They hire these promoters to do their job, but if you look at the landscape, these promoters expect you to promote yourself, man. A la Bob Arum and Bud Crawford. The amount of money I lost on Bud Crawford, I could have bought a house in Beverly Hills. And I'm like, well, you're the promoter. You're supposed to promote Bud, and he just didn't do it. They just think the black fighters are supposed to just be flashy and talking and sell themselves. Bud's not a talker. He don't do that. He does his talking in the ring. Well, Fred opened up his doors for Chris Colbert, and I don't know if he called him and said, hey, man, I'm not going to make it. I'm assuming he didn't, because normally, he came on the show the next day and he said, well, he didn't mention Chris. I guess he thought that this was a fly-by-night podcaster, disregarded the fan base that stayed up, like myself, to support him, right? No call, no show. He just didn't do that. Very unprofessional. So I let that slide. I didn't say anything. I said, well, here I am making excuses for the young man. I said, well, he's young. All right? He's young. Maybe he has something to do. I know he's a father or whatever. Made excuses for him. He turns around and he has a fight. I want to say it was in Brooklyn. And he wins the fight. Problem number one that I had with him is that he wears a sombrero to the ring. He's one of those black fighters. He wears a sombrero to the ring. And I'm like, okay, why is he doing that? I never thought that was cool. I always thought that was disrespectful, right? That's their culture. That's the Mexican culture. Why are you doing that? I always had a problem with that. It was a form of disrespect. And I always tell my audience, man, how would you feel if Canelo Alvarez was fighting an African fighter and he walks to the ring wearing a dashiki and a kufi on his head, dressed like an African? I mean, we would hit the roof, man. I don't know why these guys do that other than to be disrespectful. So this kid is wearing a sombrero. And then someone told me the sombrero that he was wearing, he had it on backwards. And I said, wow, I wouldn't know that. But anyway, he wears a sombrero to the ring. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's making fun of his opponent, or maybe he's trying to identify with something that he's not. There's a lot of that crap going along. So I said, okay, whatever. Right. So then he, at the post fight, he wins the fight, and he's sitting at the desk, and somebody from the media asks him, what's next, or something of that nature, and he says, well, I want to fight here in Brooklyn next, or whatever he says. And I couldn't find a clip, but I have it, and I meant to play it here, but I have it. I just can't find it. But he says, look, man, we need a stacked card. We need people to come out and support, because my people, these people, and he holds up his hand and he points at his hand, meaning black people. My people, these people, they don't support. I said, oh, ain't that right? And immediately I thought, this little kid, I waited up because I had to get up at 5 a.m. I waited up for him to come to Barbershop Conversations live stream so we can show him love and support him. People were missing sleep and staying up to support him. There was like 400 or 500 people in the chat looking for him. He just didn't show up. And the majority of Barbershop Conversations audiences, guess what? Black. So I'm from his city. Well, he's from my city. He's significantly younger than me. And I said, wow. My people, these people, they don't support. And then after that, I'm like, well, the sombrero, and then, what he did, he stuck up his fans or people trying to support him. And then, of course, y'all know the Deontay Wilder thing. He took a negative route with that, and he was very disrespectful. I'm not going to get into all of that. He was very disrespectful. And I said, you know what? Okay. I'm going to ease up off the kid and just let him do him. And then the El Rayo fight happened. And I thought El Rayo got robbed in the first fight. The rematch, he got slept. And I said, well, there it is. Then he wants to run it back a third time. Well, El Rayo's on the bigger and better things. He's at 140. He has a belt now, just beat Pitbull Cruz. Tank reached out and tried to fight him. What I want y'all to understand is that was technically supposed to be Chris Colbert's shine right there. If he beats El Rayo, maybe I know he don't fit the criteria, or does he? But maybe we'd have been talking about him versus Tank had he beat El Rayo. No. Instead, he was talking about Tank was talking about fighting Isak Cruz in the rematch. Isak loses to El Rayo, right? And then now El Rayo was being considered for the Tank fight, and Tank didn't want to fight him at the full 140. But my point is, Chris Colbert and all his ego and everything else, thinking he was 10 times the superstar that he wasn't, but he had some support, especially coming out of New York. He had some support. He threw it in the garbage with blatant disrespect. This kid was feeling himself. He was feeling himself. Not a good thing. Absolutely not. So you get knocked out by El Rayo. And I believe, this, unless I'm missing something, this is his first fight back after the El Rayo loss. And he gets stopped. So I do mean to be long-winded, but I have to explain to you my position as to why I stopped supporting this kid. Now, what does that have to do with what I saw this evening? I'm giving you a background why I don't care. You see, in this atmosphere of boxing today, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, man. Every brother ain't your brother. They're not. So the position he took, I acknowledged it, and I stopped dealing with him. And that was the end of it. And now life has come back to him full circle now. Is his career over? Only he knows. Can he come back from this? Only he knows. But I knew nothing about this gentleman's name, Salcido. But I watched that fight, and I'm like, uh-oh. From round 2, I was like, uh-oh. He's not slowing down. This was a basic Mexican heart, a Mexican warrior. Walked him down and imposed his will. Colbert's legs wasn't underneath him after a while. And then his corner was like, look, man, you got to show me something. His corner cared enough for him to stop it. Every time he set his feet to throw punches, this kid, Salcido, was on him. No way he was winning that fight. And if they let it continue, it might have got bad for him. He looked rubbery in spots. He's a walking marker. And I think after this fight, he's bust down the gatekeeper. He's a good enough name to get on your resume now. And he's one of those guys right now, as it stands, that it's looking like never was. He was on the brink of doing something special, and he blew it. When he got knocked out by El Rayo, his corner was telling him what to do when he was playing ignorant with his corner. The very next round, he did what his corner told him not to do, and where he got face planted, you see his corner sitting down like, oh my God. And by the way, I call him Elmo because he just looked weird with that purple hair, so I just started calling him Elmo. And I meant that with the utmost disrespect. I ain't got time. My people, these people don't support me. I tried to support this kid, man. And I stayed up way past my bedtime. I had to get up that morning to look for you, and you just didn't show up. Then you're talking about we don't support. You're saying that to a media room full of white people. You say that. You're wearing sombreros on your head. I don't know who you're trying to identify with, but you looked like you was just denouncing black people, man. So I let you go, and I just watched you. I said, man, he's going to do what he's going to do. Then you're running into El Rayo or running into his fist, right? You have a Fugazi match against him, and then you rematch him, face plants you, then you come back and lose to this gentleman I never heard of, but, you know, look on a box record, says he stopped you. So what you going to do now? But you know what? I'm doing this video because I'm talking about the fight. But I'm not going to be on some, oh, he'll be back or whatever, because you know what? Your people, these people, they don't support. Bronx on deck.
Move!